You're watching Fugitive Red Eye, and welcome to the first episode of my latest series, BadAss Showdown. For BadAss Showdown, what I'll be doing is taking two different badass characters and determining which is more badass. And what I mean by more badass is I don't necessarily mean more powerful or more vicious. I just mean they're the better character, and if they were to fight, regardless of who would win, they'd be the one I'd be more likely to root for. This is not a debate about which one would win the fight, although I would love to see people's ideas on that. And in this episode, I do give some brief thoughts about that. But that's not really the focus of what I'm going for here today. So what I'm going to do is construct a case for each character and why they're better than the other. And at the end, I'll give my opinion of who I think is better and why. This is entirely based on my opinion and does not actually reflect any sort of objective analysis. I would just like to also point out that I am pretty familiar with both series I'll be talking about today. Today I'll be talking about Fist of the North Star and Violence Jack. Violence Jack, I've read all of the manga that's available to me on the manga reader I use. So I've read up to chapter 27, which is where the Evil Town arc is. And with Fist of the North Star, I haven't read any of the manga, but I have seen almost all of the anime. I'm probably on episode 90 or so I'm about 2/3 of the way through the series. I will also say with these episodes, I will try to avoid spoilers most of the time. However, today that's not going to really be possible because part of the case for Violence Jack does involve a major spoiler, so you have been warned. I will let you know when that spoiler happens later on when I'm building his case. But the reason I chose these two to go against each other in the first episode of BadAss Showdown is because the series are very thematically similar, and the characters themselves are also somewhat similar. They both take place in apocalyptic worlds, and they're both fighters who protect the innocent for one reason or the other. But with all that being said, let's move on to the actual cases. This is the case for Violence Jack. The things that are better about Violence Jack than Kenshiro is Violence Jack looks more fearsome. He's got a very menacing smile, huge muscles, and almost claw-like fingers. He's got sharp, wolf-like teeth, and a torn-up vest and scarf. Violence Jack looks like the kind of guy you don't want to fuck with. On top of that, unlike Kenshiro, Violence Jack doesn't have any morals, so to speak. While it's true that he does on occasion protect the innocent, he doesn't always. And unlike Kenshiro, Violence Jack loves violence. He loves to kill. It's what he strives for. Violence Jack is a lot more aggressive than Kenshiro is, and when he has his knife, people just get sliced to little bits. Another thing about Violence Jack is throughout most of the series, he's very mysterious, and that works in his favor because it's really cool and it builds him up. But there's one other thing about Violence Jack that Kenshiro couldn't even touch on, and this is where things get spoilery, as I warned before. But Violence Jack is Devilman. I shit you not, he's fucking Devilman. In the final chapter of Violence Jack, when they finally reveal more about him, it turns out that when the world was destroyed in Devilman, it was recreated with Akira being reincarnated as Violence Jack. And in the final chapter, he fuses back together with two other components of Devilman to become Devilman once more and defeat Satan himself. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think Kenshiro has ever fought Satan. On top of that, if we were to pick the two in a fight, base form Violence Jack throughout most of the series, I have no doubt would lose to Kenshiro in a fight. But after becoming Devilman, I don't think Kenshiro would stand a chance. But anyway, that's the case for Violence Jack. Here is the case for Kenshiro. What makes Kenshiro better than Violence Jack is his heart. Kenshiro is not only an amazing fighter, but he cares about people. He protects the innocent, and he still maintains his moral code. On top of that, Kenshiro is the sole inheritor of an ancient fighting style. You can't say that about Violence Jack. On top of that, although Violence Jack is brutal, Kenshiro makes people fucking explode, usually with only one hit. Kenshiro also has a much more established backstory from the start, and unlike Violence Jack, Kenshiro is always the focus of Fist of the North Star. Whereas with Violence Jack, he usually only shows up halfway through an arc only to help move the plot along. Kenshiro also tends to have a lot more personality. He's serious most of the time, but you can tell he cares about those he's with, those he grew up with, and those he ends up having to fight. The development between characters such as himself and Yoria, him and Toki, and even him and Rao make him that much more of a likable guy. But on top of that, Kenshiro is human. He's made mistakes. He's lost in fights. But on top of that, he always learns from his mistakes and grows as a character. Whenever he loses a fight, he gets back up 10 times as strong. And Kenshiro realizes what's important. When his friends are in danger, he'll abandon his mission just to save them. And even when he does that, he still accomplishes his mission. He makes short work of everyone who comes to encounter him. As I said previously, he takes out most opponents with 1 or 2 hits. And that is the case for Kenshiro. And now for my final decision. This was actually really, really tough, because I love both characters, and they're both really badass. They're both also really powerful, and really cool. But I'm gonna have to pick Kenshiro on this one. Kenshiro is just more likable as a character, and he's more developed. You get more attached to him because he's the focus of the series, unlike Jack, who, as I previously said, shows up later in an arc, usually. Kenshiro has friends and such that help him get attached to and give him a reason to keep fighting. And although Jack has a few companions, such as Tacoma and a few others, they're not really his friends, and he's not with them most of the time. Jack looks cooler and is a lot more, fearsome looking, but that's only because Kenshiro, to be perfectly honest, is just a ripoff of Mad Max in appearance. The creator has even said that before. And by Mad Max, I mean the original Mel Gibson, not the new one. But still, the fact that Kenshiro makes people explode, and he's just that much more likable as a character because he develops as a person, I think make him a little bit more likable. And it was, like I said, a tough call, because with Violence Jack having the whole Devilman connection, that was really hard, because I absolutely love Devilman. So having Violence Jack be a reincarnation of Devilman, you would think would push him over the edge. But the problem is Kenshiro is just so goddamn likable, even that can't make Jack a better character. So in my opinion, out of the two badass characters, Kenshiro is the bigger badass. This has been Fugitive Red Eye, and you have a great day.
Subscribe to Fugitive Red Eye.